So maybe you're thinking about a move to Richmond, Virginia. Well, before you pack your bags, let's dive into the real pros and cons of living in this one-of-a-kind city. If you want to know what life is really like in Richmond, come along as we take a close and honest look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's get started. I'm Greg Somerville, and before we get started, just a quick disclaimer. I'm not trying to sway your opinions here. All the information I'm going to share is available online. It's public data that corresponds with my own experience of life here in Richmond. So with that said, let's dive into the real pros and cons of living in Richmond. Con number one, living in Richmond means sneezy springs and sticky summers. If you've got serious allergies, you probably shouldn't be moving to Richmond. With all these beautiful green spaces comes a lot of pollen. In fact, in a national ranking of the nation's worst cities for allergies, Richmond ranked number 7th this year. The summers here can be a challenge for some. With temps in the 90s and high humidity, the heat can be pretty intense. July is the hottest month here with average high of 90 degrees, average low of 69. Now you may want to compare that to some other cities around the country, like Las Vegas, where the average July temperature is 107, 106 in Phoenix, 96 in Austin, Texas, and then a very moderate 83 degrees in Boston. As you might guess, the coldest month of each year is January, with the average low of 28, average high of 48. Historically, we get about 11 inches of snow per year, though the last couple of years have gotten just a dusting. And the average annual rainfall, 44 inches, which is 6 inches more than the national average. That's why Richmond is so green. Pro number one is a rich and dark history. Richmond is one of the oldest cities in the United States, and it's brimming with history. Not all of it is pretty, but it's very meaningful to live in a place where so much of America's story actually took place. The first European settler to set foot in these parts was Captain John Smith, who made it here to the Falls of the James in 1607, same year that the Jamestown colony was established. The city of Richmond itself wasn't established for over 100 years later in 1737. In March of 1775, the Second Virginia Convention was held right here at St. John's Church in Churchill. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and a fiery young orator named Patrick Henry are in attendance. It was there that Henry gave those famous words, "Give me liberty or give me death." Thomas Jefferson, who later served as governor of Virginia, designed the Capitol building here. In 1781, the traitor Benedict Arnold led a British raid on Richmond. He and his soldiers looted the city, set it on fire, causing widespread destruction. For decades, it was the site of the second largest domestic slave market in the United States. Richmond served as the capital of the Confederacy during the Civil War, and there are numerous battlefield sites nearby. In neighborhoods like Churchill or the Fan and the Museum District, you'll find examples of historic architecture dating back hundreds of years. There is so much history here to discover. Con number two is traffic and transportation. Though the city's traffic is really not that bad compared to other major cities, rush hour traffic can be a hassle, especially along Route 95 and Route 64. The city's just not big enough to have a subway system or a light rail system. Though interestingly, it was one of the first cities in the country to have electric streetcars back in the 1800s. For a lot of complex reasons, the city and its surrounding counties haven't always cooperated on transportation solutions. Its bus system, the GRTC, is gradually expanding its services to reach more areas. In 2018, the Pulse, a rapid transit system, began serving a 7.6-mile route running east to west from Willow Lawn to Rockets Landing. And by 2031, the city plans to add a much longer Pulse line running north to south, extending more than 18 miles and connecting both sides of the river. The best part about the GRT system is it's totally free. Bike lanes are multiplying around the city, and it seems like at almost every intersection you could find an electric scooter for rent. But even with these improvements, most residents would still feel like they need a car to get around town. Pro number two is affordable housing. Compared to similar U.S. cities, homes in Richmond are relatively affordable. The dream of home ownership is simply more attainable here. Look at these median sale prices in 10 cities around the country. Chicago, $347,000. Tampa Bay, $373,000. Richmond, $393,000. Atlanta, $396,000. Raleigh, $437,000. Phoenix, $453,000. Washington, D.C., $556,000. Denver, $572,000, Boston, $713,000, and San Francisco, 1.5 million. No, don't get the wrong idea. Richmond has plenty of multi-million-dollar properties. If you're looking to retire on the golf course or overlooking the river, I can show you some beautiful luxury homes. But if you're a first-time buyer looking for a starter home where you can build up some equity over time, this is a great place. Con number 3, this is a city still shackled by racial injustice. In 1977, Henry Marsh became the first African-American mayor of Richmond. But before that landmark election, segregation was rampant throughout the city. Classic black neighborhoods had been demolished to make room for highways, and white citizens defied court orders to integrate public schools. In 1971, Virginia's General Assembly, controlled by white legislators, passed a law that prevented Richmond City from annexing new property. At a time when cities like Charlotte, North Carolina were booming economically, Richmond was handcuffed. Between 1970 and 1990, the era of white flight, 20% of the city's white residents moved to the counties, taking their wealth and tax revenues with them. Left behind were many of the region's poorest residents, most of whom lived in the city's 8 housing projects. Racist policies and broken promises hamstrung the city's ability to capitalize on economic opportunities. Though Richmond has made a lot of progress since then, the fact is that it's still trying to shake off some old shackles. Let me pause here for a quick reminder. If you're thinking about moving to Richmond, or if you have any questions about what I've said or what you've seen, feel free to reach out to me at any time. My number's on the screen. My email address is in the description below. Reach out. I'd be happy to help. Pro number 3 is a thriving job market in key industries. 8 of the Fortune 500 companies are based here in Richmond, including Altria and CarMax. 3 of the 4 top employers are in healthcare, including VCU Health System, HCA Virginia Health System, and Bon Secours Richmond. Lots of jobs are available here in the finance sector. Capital One, which is the region's 2nd biggest employer, has a huge campus just west of Short Pump. Truist and the Federal Reserve Bank here in Richmond also are major employers. Virginia Commonwealth University employs almost 8,000 people. CoStar Group, a global data analytics company, is building a towering new campus downtown. And Lego is building its first U.S. factory in Chester, which will have 1,700 employees. Con number 4, limited jobs in high-growth sectors. While Richmond offers great career opportunities in fields like healthcare, finance, government, and education, other fields are less robust. Technology, biotech, entertainment, for example. Professionals in these fields may find fewer high-paying roles. However, the city's growing startup and tech scenes are starting to fill this gap. With 3 universities here in town, there is a major pipeline of fresh talent, and the city's local government is providing support and resources for tech entrepreneurs. Forbes magazine recently ranked Richmond in its top 50 cities to start a new business. With its relatively low cost of living, strategic location, and business-friendly vibe, it's no surprise that investors and startups are starting to flock here. Pro number 4, a foodie's paradise. Richmond's food scene has been exploding in recent years. Garden & Gun magazine calls Richmond the South's best-kept culinary secret. But for those of us who live here, it is no secret. From award-winning restaurants to locally sourced farm-to-table spots to the latest pop-up, there is always something new to try. There are way too many good restaurants to name them all, but here are some standouts. Metzger Bar and Butchery, La Mer, La Possum, Midlothian Chef's Kitchen, The Roosevelt, Lily Pearl, and Edo's Squid. Some of Richmond's most famous chefs are Brittany Anderson, Peter Chang, and Velma Johnson. And there are lots of up-and-comers as well, like Cheney Kuykendall, executive chef at VMFA, who participated in the Culinary Academy of France's Best Chef competition. Nicholas Hall, the chef de cuisine at Brenner Pass. Jane Lucas, baker at Lost Letter. And Dylan Nemitz, executive chef at Grisette. No matter what makes your mouth water, Southern comfort food, barbecue, international cuisine, Richmond's diverse food scene is sure to satisfy. Con number 5 is a lack of major professional sports. If watching your team on the big screen just doesn't satisfy, if you need to be at the stadium with 75,000 other fans in order to enjoy the game, then cancel your tickets to Richmond. We're just not big enough to play in the big leagues. But we love our sports though. There's VCU basketball, professional soccer with the Richmond Kickers, and a popular pre-professional women's team, the Richmond Ivy. There's the PGA Tour Champions Tournament each year at the Country Club of Virginia, NASCAR races at the Richmond Raceway, and AA baseball with the Flying Squirrels, who will have a beautiful new stadium in 2026. Not many of our contests get featured on national TV, but we sure know how to pack the stands and make a lot of noise. Pro number 5 is a love for balance and beauty. Do you remember the story of Goldilocks and the 3 bears? Papa Bear's bed was too hard. Mama Bear's bed was too soft. But Baby Bear's bed was just right. And I know this is going to sound corny, but as a city, to me, Richmond is just right. It's not too big, not too small, not too fast, not too slow, not too liberal, not too conservative. Richmonders have a greater sense of balance that I've found in other places where I've lived. After putting in a hard week of work, they make time to relax and enjoy a good meal, a music festival, a farmer's market, or just a walk in the park with their dog. Not only do they appreciate balance, but they appreciate beauty, like watching the mist rise from the James River early in the morning as they're jogging across the Nickel Bridge, or sipping coffee with a friend in the sculpture garden at the VMFA, or taking in a concert on Browns Island, or hearing the Richmond Symphony. Or maybe it's just looking at the street murals in Chaco Bottom and Jackson Ward. You know, the pandemic drove a lot of people out of the big cities. Once they were free to work remotely, they sought out places where life was less stressful, more sustainable. Places like Richmond. Well, there you have it. 5 real pros and cons of living in Richmond, Virginia. There are a lot of other things we could have covered as well, good and bad, but hopefully this at least gives you a taste. If there's something specific that's on your mind that I didn't cover today, my number's on the screen. Feel free to text or call at any time. And if you just want to learn more about Richmond in general, check out this video. You may find it interesting. Well, thanks again for watching. I'll see you on the next one.